The Frame Center Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Frame Center Podcast. I'm Dave, and I got Scott with me, and today we have Karen Cass joining us. We're gonna, talk a little bit about Karen's artwork, talk a little bit about maybe Hanover days, the wonderful Warren,
all the projects she's done with us here.
Yeah. So, thanks for coming in, Karen. Thanks for sitting down and talking with us. I thought, when we finished that whole project with Warren, I thought that this would be a great conversation to have. Because the ties I thought were pretty interesting. So that was a fun experience for you.
What is this project from Warren?
Oh, I mean, obviously you know Warren. Warren might.
I know though, but our listeners do not. So what was this project and what did it involve?
The famous Warren.
Yeah.
Long-time customer of the Frame Center.
Oh, yeah.
Very loyal, frequent visitor here.
Yeah, Warren's here all the time. He's a regular Saturday guy.
Well, I guess that's part of the beauty of this place is that once you come back again and again, and you build a trust. You've created a sense of community, especially for your clients and for artists. I started coming here 20 years ago.
Yep.
I don't know if you even know that, but like moving to this town, as an artist, you have to create your community. You have to find a photographer. You have to find a framer, and I started coming here that long ago, and so it says a lot about a place.
It seems like a long time, but these years are going by very quickly. Like I feel like Paul, we were talking to downstairs. I feel like he retired 2 years ago, and he's like, it's 8 years.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like a blink of an eye.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been here over 7 now, so it's like it doesn't feel that long,
Yeah.
Right?
But
this
it's a good thing, though. I guess doesn't feel torturous
absolutely.
to be here.
No, it's a great place, and it's a place that I've come to just be very comfortable coming here. Know you guys will do great work for me, and I think that's why people keep coming back, and that's a testament to you guys as professionals, but also as friends and supporters of artists.
I think that's one of the things we're trying to do. We're trying to do that even more, and I think that this whole venue as well, like the podcast, I think that'll give even more opportunity for people, because we have many different types of customers. We have artist customers, we have collectors, we have just everyday people that don't even think that much about art. Having some sort of source to connect them also, I think, is a great thing that we can do.
Absolutely.
Kind of show people, showcasing stuff upstairs with Hanover Days, with different art shows like Sean's and
your own show that was up here.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why I wanted to go back to that word you just said, making connections. That's how Warren and I got together. Is that I was given an opportunity here to have a show, and he happens to be a customer and came back again and again and saw the work and felt something, a connection to that. And you guys encouraged him to get in touch with me. So that actually, this project that I did for him would never have happened had I not done a show here. So that was a pretty awesome thing. And that gave me the chance to meet someone who was serious about, hiring an artist to do a very specific project for a very specific space.
Yep.
His building in Boston has a very unique history, and it was really such a great opportunity to go in there, check out the space, feel it out, get a sense from him what the history of the building was, what his feelings were about it, and that gave me an opportunity to start really thinking about what I could do. And it was a very specific project that had to do with his personal history, his business, his organizations. So he represents the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and
Yeah, the connection was.
And it's phenomenal because
how far along to,
once we
conversations
started,
with him,
did
you realize
just almost immediately having those conversations with him, that very first time that I went into his building and he started telling me about the building and all of the work that was done there, immediately struck a chord saying, okay, well, I have a family history. First of all, my mother's relatives came over from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Warren Pepizzelli,
yeah.
Italian immigrant. My mother's mother came over from Italy and was a sewer, a stitcher.
Mm-hmm.
All of her cousins worked in the garment district in New York. And so I was telling Warren all these things as we were just meeting each other. We were having those, they were already happening, those connections. And so that was kind of a cool first conversation. And then shared with him that my daughter is also following in that path as a fashion designer.
Oh,
She's
nice.
going into her senior year at Parsons
geez,
in New York. So she's a fashion designer and has been sewing since she was 7 years old.
Oh, that's funny.
And another Hanover connection is that
Yep.
she started sewing right here in Hanover at the sewing studio
Oh,
right
yeah.
up the street.
Yeah, around my daughter took,
Jeez, wow.
my daughter took some classes over there.
It's awesome. And those two ladies really encouraged her. And that was her first introduction to sewing. My mom, had that in her blood and it has always been a sewer. And
Right,
so I always felt that like this was kind of a lost art and wanted my daughter to learn, just to have something unique that she liked to do. So that's been in our history. And so it kind of fed into some of the ideas that I had for how I was going to make the artwork. And so as I was driving home that day, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like this is going to be really fun. I'm going to incorporate some of these little connections that we have.
And your work has a lot of collage and a lot of dimension to you're familiar with all
Oh, yeah.
So I started, thinking about, what I have at home and what kinds of things I want to include in these things. And some of it was, personal history. Some of it was connected to Warren and his interests.
Yes.
His interests in his neighborhood, being in Chinatown, the building itself.
Sure.
And his love of that community and his also his spiritual life.
I was going to say he's a very deeply spiritual person.
Exactly.
A lot of connections to nature and a lot of
Right?
which definitely comes out in your artwork. So
And so I knew that there was going to be some kind of reference to nature. But as I started thinking about it more and more, I wanted to incorporate this notion of the hands-on, the materials, the connection to Chinatown, the connection to Warren's interests. And so I started to think about what kinds of materials I would include. So I was using maps and fabrics, and I raided my daughter's studio space. Took some of her fabrics and
you just wanted her to be a part of it. That's
exactly.
all.
I took some of her old drawings.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we had done a lot of work in some of my private lessons and summer camps. We did a lot of ink drawings, and so we had done some drawings with bamboo brushes and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff lying around that I started weeding through, and I also took some of her old clothing patterns, and those are like very fine tissue.
That
and they got
brownish
printing on
paper.
it. Exactly.
Yes, yeah. My mother used to do a lot of sewing, so
and then I went to an Asian market and bought some joss paper, which is a really decorative incense paper that it's kind of ceremonial. So they use that paper in certain festivals and different services that they do to offer up. So they burn the paper.
And
this
release
paper is beautifully decorated. So I used a lot of that in the collage too. So building the foundation of the paintings was mostly collage materials. So.
And when you start a project like that, hopefully we'll flash some of the the paintings because we got some pictures of them also. But like when you're planning that out, I mean, how much is in just spur of the moment, and how much is a lot of it just very well planned out?
It's not actually. I mean, I think that I try to deny this, but I think that I already have the images kind of finished in my head.
Yeah.
But then when I actually go to make them,
kind of.
it's very much like a conversation. It's like you can't plan it. You have to respond to what's been placed. And I try to just let myself be loose
Go
and
with the
lay
flow.
stuff down and really just kind of let the materials kind of fall where they may.
Yep.
There's a lot of chance involved.
Yep.
I like to try to build the surface first with just big shapes,
Yep.
large areas, and then because I was talking a little bit about this when I was doing my presentation at the building about how intimidating a white surface can be.
Yep.
And so a lot of times I'll just put paint on the surface just to kind of like
just to
kind of
get
have
over
that,
with, get that
first
starting
moment,
spot.
just jump over that hurdle, just rip the Band-Aid off.
I know a lot
you know?
of people will do that. They'll just hit it with a splash of color
Just
just so
get
it's
it
not a
on
blank
there.
canvas anymore.
Exactly, and that just kind of jump starts the whole process. So whether it's putting paint on or laying a big piece of fabric down, that gets me started, and then it kind of starts the conversation, and then it's kind of a back and forth process.
Yeah,
of
your stuff is
what
so
gets put down.
like dimensional too, and like the paint. You should do like a time lapse of yourself. Too.
I have actually.
you really?
I did some
of like the process. That'd be
little
great to see.
time lapse videos of my
Yeah.
process. I actually laid all the white panels down on the floor and took a picture first, and then like one at a time just showed like the beginning process,
Yeah.
and then some of them I recorded while I was in the kind of the mode of getting the paint on there.
Yeah.
So at different points throughout the process, I
Yeah.
would record parts of that.
Snippets here,
Yeah,
snippet there.
exactly.
Because sometimes the camera equipment does get in the way when you're trying to do it. I know for sure.
Or I get in the way of the camera.
Right, like you're trying to like sidestep and not brush it, and you
Like-
move it anyway.
And then it kind of hinders your just your freedom of movement.
it does
so,
mess with the flow. Yeah.
so yeah, I have to kind of choose my battles on that.
Yeah,
on that
But
front.
but just I think it would
Yeah.
just be cool to see, just because like there's so many different colors, different textures, like
And it's interesting, I think, too, because I think as an artist, you go through the process of going too far.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of go back to see, oh, where did that thing go that I put down? It's
Yeah.
covered in paint now. To see the history of those layers
Oh,
being
sure.
put down is
Yeah.
kind of a cool thing for me to go back to.
Yeah.
So I also take photographs in process. So
Yeah.
I'll take a picture, and then when I destroy it,
Yeah.
I can go back and
Yeah.
say, oh, well, what did I do there?
where they go wrong. Yeah.
And I'm sure the process is completely different too when it's your own piece and you're trying to get something out of your mind onto the canvas versus a commissioned piece where
Right.
somebody has a general idea of what they may want already, and you've got to kind of stay within a constraint versus being just free to do wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
So was that like more constraining on this one, or was
what
Warren pretty open
he,
for like
he had
what you
no
want?
idea what I was going to do.
Really?
And I shared with him some of my ideas.
Sure.
So when I first met him, I actually brought a couple of the paintings that were in the show.
Oh, okay.
Just to see size-wise what would work.
Right.
And then when I was in the space, and then when I had talked to him, I'm like, these sizes will work, but the paintings have to be much more specific to the personal connection I was making and the stories that were being told.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we have to start from scratch. So that part of it, we talked about like what would fit in the space. And
Because this was the full open lobby area, right?
yes.
Yeah, so it's a large area. It's not like
you know,
it's
I sort of mapped out and did some measuring and things like that, and we talked as a group. So he and a couple of the people that he works with went over like what the space can handle and
yeah,
what
without it
kind
feeling
of size
crammed
and shape.
Yeah.
But other than that, he didn't really specify what he wanted. So that was kind of cool because I had really free reign within reason.
Yeah, well, sure,
And then,
yeah.
and then once I started kind of processing my ideas, I ran some ideas by him. And he got really excited.
Yeah, Warren.
And that's where we kind of said, okay. And so because he has this amazing custom-made bamboo wall in the lobby that's opposite where the artwork is
Yeah.
now, I wanted to incorporate the idea of bamboo
Yeah.
because I also feel like it's very symbolic and it really connects with him
Definitely.
and his spirituality and the symbolism of it being of strength and longevity and kind of putting down lasting roots
Yeah.
and that community connection too. That's where the bamboo came into play,
Came
and
into
I
the
was
idea
like,
for
this
it,
is
yeah.
where I need to go with this.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had actually, my husband and I, planted bamboo in our yard.
Oh.
So we discovered the pluses and minuses of
Yeah.
bamboo and how it can really
Yeah.
lay down roots and
Uh-huh.
invade. And
Oh, you mean
and
like take over an entire area?
They call it invasive,
Yeah.
but we think it's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But so you have to actually create like a barrier,
A barrier,
around it.
yeah.
But
Otherwise, you'll have a forest in your backyard before you know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do have a bamboo grove.
Yeah, exactly.
But the beauty
Doesn't
of
it
that
take a while
is that
though? Like
it does
it's
take,
like
takes
isn't
a
it like
while
years
to
and
establish.
then all of a
Yes.
sudden it just
Then
like
and then it goes.
Overnight, it'll be like,
Exactly. Right. So I wanted the bamboo to be symbolic of like putting down roots.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reference to like what's under the ground. So
Yeah.
there's these kind of linear and root-like drawn images
Mm-hmm.
in the paintings as well that kind of give that feeling of like really embedding the
Anchoring.
the ground
Yeah, just
and
kind of.
holding on and then sending out shoots
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like that. I feel like that's very symbolic.
Yeah.
It's definitely, especially with Warren, with all his connections he makes.
Exactly.
It's like it's
Right?
the base
He's-
and then his root system of where he branches out to all the different
For
people.
sure.
You know.
And
Yeah.
that had to be a part of it too.
Yeah.
Felt like that was really important. And I included maps, and I showed him a lot of the parts that I was including.
Mm-hmm.
So and I exposed some of the parts of the maps, so especially the Chinatown area, and then some places that are significant to me and to places that mean a lot. And also including in the materials the logo for his union.
Oh,
so
sure.
keeping that in mind,
no
that
letters
I
were-
wanted that to be a prominent feature. Not overtly, but you could definitely see it
Yep.
in there for the union logo.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I found some vintage tags and tickets that would have reference to the Garment Workers Union.
Oh, sure.
So those
And I
were
know
in
your
there.
color palette was very strong too on this too, because
Yes.
I only saw it when you brought them in for sizing them up to be
Oh, yeah.
framed.
Yep.
I haven't seen them in the final space yet, so I'm looking forward to actually seeing them.
The colors work perfect.
and that's the thing, it's
it was like
I just remember these
Yeah.
reds and the yellows and these vertical lines that you have from the bamboo.
Yes.
It just created such neat segmentation on the on the page. But then there was, like you said, little bits of nature, things move, a little bit of movement in there. Well, not all just stagnant heavy lines with breaks and things in there. So
Yeah, there's definitely little subtle details that one of the things I wanted to be part of the flow of it is when people come into the building, I wanted there to be a continuous kind of storyline.
Yeah.
And so there is a horizon running through all four pieces. So it was hung
Yeah.
by Dave and his brother John
Yeah, mostly
in
John.
that specific way so that you could see from beginning to end this line running through. So it felt like you were kind of walking the beach or walking a landscape and seeing it continuously to the
yeah.
end. And it was meant to be kind of more complex and busier as a landscape in the first panel, and then as you move along it kind of
opened up and
evolves.
Yeah.
So at the end you're just kind of meditating on the water and it kind of feels like a quieter moment.
sure.
And that's what I was trying to encourage people to kind of get up close, see it from a distance, but also get up close and see those little
See the little
subtle
bits, the little subtle
details
hints, yeah.
too, yeah.
Because the pieces weren't all the same size either. I know your end cap pieces were.
Yes.
Like,
So
were they
they-
full square profile or were they
They're
just?
a 4 foot by 3 foot diptych on either end. So they're two
Anchored
paintings
by,
together, connected, which of course Mark helped me with as he always does. So the two end panels are the same size and
Right.
shape, those two rectangles, and then the middle panels are more of a long horizontal, almost like a panoramic view. So
Right.
those are the triptychs, which are 3 panels together, and those are 5 foot by, I think, 2 foot high.
Yeah. So if you think of almost like a capital I on its side,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, with the
Yeah,
ends just kind
exactly.
of
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
it that unique form that, again, it's not
Right.
something you see in every.
Yeah, so it's 2 diptychs on the ends,
On the
and then you
ends.
have two triptychs in the
In
middle.
the middle, yep.
Creating like a, overall it's like there's a lot of dimension to it.
Exactly.
So what's
Yeah.
4 pieces that line up? That's a quadrip.
Yeah.
Right.
We're at the quartet of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, they line up great, but there's the 4 in the row. What do you call that, Scott? You know everything.
Oh, God.
Of course, put me on the spot. Come on, Scott, you can do this. Think. Think. Nope, I got nothing.
Yeah, no, I don't know everything, Dave. Trust me.
It's a quad. It's a quad espresso. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
But inside of that quad is diptychs and triptychs. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, the shape
Multi-
of it is
I
just.
just like to say multi-panel.
The multi-panel is the easiest way to go. And it encompasses a whole bunch of different subjects.
Exactly.
But it does make it a unique flow on the wall versus it just being 3 or 4 pieces the exact same size, just,
Yes.
creating, breaks in height and everything. It does change where your eye line falls. So having your horizon run through the center of all 4 of those panels is one unique because it's not all the same, not that easy to line up either, I'm sure.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah,
to
it was
get
a
them to
little
hang
tricky in
proper
my
on your
studio
wall.
space to try
Yeah.
to
Yeah, did
actually make that work.
Did
also
you
good-
have them all laid out when you were working at it so you could look at it as a whole?
Yes.
See-
So yes, I lined them up at different points through the process
Yeah.
and propped them up on paint cans and whatever else I had
Yeah.
to try to imagine how I would want them hung.
Yep.
And then to try to communicate that with you
Yep. Yeah.
was
1.5 paint
so
cans
much
high
fun.
off of the
Exactly.
different
So I kind of figured out that I definitely wanted them, those middle ones centered on the end caps to get that feel. Plus, tricky space.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Where
very
it was a
tricky
ramp.
space.
So
Oh.
the foyer.
So the floor isn't
Yes,
even even?
so it
Yeah.
because
gosh.
it's an old building,
Yeah.
and Warren had it renovated so that it's handicap accessible. The entire entryway is a ramp.
It's a gradient, huh? So it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they had to measure off the ceiling to get that level. So that was
Pick
a
a
little
height.
tricky.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging install.
Good thing we had professionals
Right,
on the
yeah.
job that
Good-
could measure
Good thing we had John.
and good tools
Yeah.
because we came into a
yeah,
little
he
bit
ran
of
into a number of it. Like the floor was
construction
one
issues.
challenge.
Oh,
Yeah.
Then
jeez.
he had the
what was behind the
yeah,
wall.
right.
Oh.
So for 2 of them, like right behind the wall, there must have been like a like a beam or something.
Oh, yeah.
running through. So he's just losing bits.
So yeah, the first I
Had to
think
change
I
hangers.
had gone out to the car to get something, and I came back in, and Eva is looking at my daughter was with us for the install because she's got a great eye. So she comes at me and she goes, "I think we have a problem," because I broke the first drill bit
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
going into the wall, and then of course we're talking to Warren. We're like, "What's behind there?" And we're like, "You know what's behind there, right?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah,
here."
it's just an old industrial I-beam.
And he said
Yeah.
it was actually a half wall of marble.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
jeez.
there was marble
Yeah.
behind there that they had built over, but it was only partially. So I'm sure you were hitting.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah.
The tough
fortunately,
stuff.
It's
I
like
said,
going through a half-inch of plywood into brick or concrete. You're gonna snap a whole bunch of bits
Right?
trying to go off of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's going with security hangers. He's trying. So he had to switch from the tops to go down on. Unfortunately, because of the different shapes, he had the longer ones, the triptychs in the middle, were dropped down.
down.
Just fortunately below. So those ones
We lucked out on
those
that,
ones
right?
were able to hang normally, and then the other ones
Right.
he had to adjust, go to D-rings on the sides with the key on the bottom.
To lock it in place.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And
yeah.
it was and I think that we lucked out also because I don't think we had a lot more options. I was,
Right, I know.
might have been-
Hardware.
yeah, because we took
Yikes.
John. I was almost driving back to Dorchester to get more.
Get the Gorilla Glue. We're gonna go to the wall.
No, I mean John's a pro.
Yeah.
So he would have figured out a way to get him up on the wall one way or the
Yeah.
other.
People
that
wonder
was-
why our toolbox is, gigantic and on wheels when we're bringing these things in to hang a small picture in a house. It's because you never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
need the whole
exactly.
kitchen sink to get it up on the wall. But
That's why I didn't want to be a part of
Yeah.
that.
yeah, your
of
part
it.
was done and
I
over.
was like, I'm making the paintings.
Yep.
That is the end.
Yeah.
We need the professionals to do
Professionals.
the install.
I mean, that's what, again, some of the stuff we're trying to do here is connection, partnerships, like that was, I mean, I had a blast that day. I mean,
It's great.
I don't know, John had to deal with more of the stress. So, but I mean,
Dave was having a great time.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, I was talking with Warren's giving me a tour of his office,
Which I'm sure was
showing-
also
showing
By
interesting
the
me
way,
building.
that
Yeah.
building is phenomenal. And
Yep.
yes, his office, I was like, I could stay there all day and look
Yeah.
at all the interesting features
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so
It's
a lot
great.
more stress was on John's plate. We, but again, I mean, I think that's a great, partnership for us with with artists, other customers, and I think that we're moving in the direction with our website. We're going to have more, artist pages. We're starting slow, but we're building those up, and I think that's a great way too. So if someone's like, oh, I saw someone's paintings in here, like 2 years ago,
Yep.
and it's like, all right, well, here's a link to the website, to their page on there, and another way to like connect people,
This too. I mean, this being able to hear, people's
the
thoughts on a process and how they
Mm-hmm.
go about doing something, and a small connection to the artist is always, I think, something like you can always order any print off of line that you would like. You just may like the design, but you have no connection to it. There's no conversation other than like, I like the blue. That's why I got
matches
it.
my
It matches
couch.
my
Yeah,
couches and my furniture.
OTC,
But-
right?
Or, I met this person while we were at a gala, and they had their own, setup upstairs. They had 20 pieces, and I was able to talk to her about how each one of the, that's a little bit more. Again, a little, especially when people come over, it's a nice little conversation starter. And if you have a connection to the artwork, I always find it means more.
Yeah, and I think that when
agree.
we have when these pages, when my vision, I'll talk to Warren about it.
Hey, if anyone to talk about the vision board, it's Warren. I tell you, he's a.
But I mean, I envision like bios and some pictures showing the relationship in here. I think once we update,
think
once
it's a great idea.
once we update your page, I think that those pictures of from Warren's place will be up there.
Yeah.
And
But that can be a great resource for people coming in here who don't really know what they want.
yeah, I mean, I think some people are it's funny because you're around original. For me, like I'm around original art a lot, and so I'm not intimidated by it. If I want to buy something, there's a price, and then
Yep.
I'm not worried about making a decision that people are gonna judge or it's just
Yep.
buy what you love, buy the artwork. I think Dina has this, the tagline, it's frame what you love what you frame. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same thing with buying artwork. You buy artwork that you love or you have a connection to, have it up on
Absolutely.
the wall. I mean, I'm trying to start a series of just like explanations of videos of of paintings I have in my house, because I think that would also lead into like some interesting stuff of like showing people's artwork in their homes and like just getting the backstory of it, because there's so much
Yes.
more to like having good art, real art, opposed to like I mean, there's something to be said. There's great master painters and having like a print of their
Sure.
stuff. That's but there's so much more, and like it's such a more interesting story when you're like the story behind Warren's paintings, and it's like these connections. Opposed to like, oh yeah, I mean, master bedrooms of unbelievable. I have a dog, I have a bed. Like let's throw it. Like I relate
That looks
to
like
this
my
painting.
dog. Yeah.
I relate to this painting. This print.
Well, that's the good thing about this area is it's such a rich, cultural art base. I mean, it really helps having such a diverse group that comes in here a lot, which is nice. But even the people that walk in off the street who have never been through our door before, and want something framed that they have, even if it is, a smaller print that they just got it out, and maybe they're just starting their art collection,
Yep.
and they don't have a clue of where to go to yet to get that kind of stuff. It's so easy to look it up online, and they're going to direct you to whoever puts the highest bid up for putting their
Yeah.
their website up, and it's going to bring it to art.com or something along those lines, and they'll bring in a piece that they really love. Well, if they really love it and they've had the time to come in here all the way, instead of just going to someplace, chain store and coming in to see us, they care enough about to get it done. Same thing as if they come in and I'm sure look at, your stuff. They they've put enough interest and thought into wanting to work with somebody that it means something to them. So and that's what was great about Warren.
Yeah, and there's so many art associations around here too. Like I feel like that's another thing that we can do with our website, and I envision kind of having that calendar page, having all of the tie-ins for like shows, because I mean there's. Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you're part of all of them in some degree, right?
Yeah.
One recently that we had here, if I can remember correctly, Hanover Days.
Yeah. And even
Yeah.
those ones. That Hanover Days is the art show is your baby, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. I've been involved in the Cultural Council for many, many years, probably about 15 years now, and the Hanover Day Art Show happened to fall in my lap because I happen to be an artist.
Right?
You're an artist.
It's funny how that
of course,
happens, right? Yeah.
The assumption is that
You know about it
I know
all.
all the artists in the area, and but also having connections with, say, the South Shore Art Center in Cohasset or the North River, and you start to build that community so that at least you can have the right resources to reach out to other artists, and that's how it's built over the years. And then there's an expectation that people are going to hear about it. So that's what we try to do, is keep building on that and having this venue that you've so generously given us to use for that purpose is just a huge gift, and it's such a great resource here right in our town to be able to do that. And it connects so well with the big event that we do that weekend. It kicks off Hanover Day. And we should actually call it Hanover Days, because it starts with
it's a multiple setup.
It starts with having the reception here on that Thursday night just before, and then it feeds into all the festivities of the coming weekend. So, and it really is a great celebration of local artists.
Means a lot to them too. I know a lot of the local artists that they have been thinking, should I put my stuff in? Is it good enough to put in here? I always say, if you're ever hesitant, always put it in for the show. If you put your piece in, it's in. You get to display it among the pieces. There's no judgment.
Inclusive.
There's no. It's just
exactly. The jurying is simply to give awards.
Right.
It's not whether your piece gets allowed into the show or not. Everything is is
I've had that happen.
A nice
It's such a kick in the gut to go, I love this piece, and they hated it because I didn't even get to the wasn't somebody's cup of tea. It didn't make it in, and you always feel like, oh well, maybe I'll stop. But
so we believe that is a really important part of the Hanover Day Art Show, is that everything that is submitted gets put up, and that's a really great way for somebody who might not be that comfortable entering a piece into a show to know that they have that safe place.
Everyone deserves to have that feeling at least once, getting their piece up. And
it makes for a good community.
I mean, as artists, we know that, not every piece is going to get into every show. But for somebody who's just starting out, or somebody who's not that comfortable with juried art shows, to have that feeling
judgment
of comfort to know that if I put something, it's going to go up on the wall.
Well, because jurors,
And
I mean,
that's cool.
you have one show to the next, and you have different jurors. There's I was talking to Becky Halecki, she had won the best in show in Pembroke, and then she tried to enter that same piece into another show, and it was rejected. So you go from best in show in one show to a rejection in another.
No,
and
it's
just.
And that's the range. That is so completely what can happen.
A judge that specializes
it's so
in
personal.
photography, and then you get another judge who specializes in pastel work or abstracts, and each person's going to see something different that they like in their piece.
I hate to say it's a question of taste, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
It's really the jurors.
Well, I know some people that go as far as to investigate the jurors a little bit. So they're trying to they're trying to
what's their favorite color?
Strategizing, what they are, what their background is, and trying to appeal to them, which I guess is a smart move.
It's a strategy. But I mean, it also it means that when you have your stuff here, it's like I said, there's no judgment. It makes it so that you have the freedom to keep coming back, or maybe once you've got it in that one, you have the background or the feeling of it's not that bad. It's like going to do something the first time. That first roller coaster ride, it's like, oh, you're terrified, and then oh no, it was nothing. It was
wasn't
great.
so bad after all.
Exactly,
And
it's that sigh of relief,
one
that
under
breath
my
of fresh
belt
air.
that I was able to, see what it's like
Yeah.
to actually put my work up.
And we had a ton of new people this year that only started doing stuff because of their time off from COVID.
That's
It's
true.
one of those
Yeah.
good things that come out of, COVID. It was a bunch
Good
of people.
for a couple things.
Exactly. People had the time. That's such a
That's
thing.
true.
It's the time to invest into doing artwork. You can't just sit for 5 minutes and be done. You have to be able to, take a breath, walk away, look at stuff, come back to it
Right.
a few days later, and not
Process.
just have, I can't tell you how many watercolors I started and I didn't get back to it till 3 months later and I forgot what I was doing.
Right.
It's just, having that freedom definitely, allowed a lot more people to be involved. So hopefully next year will be even bigger.
Absolutely.
Now that this was the first year back.
So a little bit more about your stuff, Karen. Sorry to pull it.
No.
No, it's good.
So people can find your stuff at your website.
I do not have an active website
Nope.
right now. I'm on Instagram,
Yeah.
and that is so that's
The best way
that's
to
my
view your
main-
pieces and
I
stuff?
just feel like it's
The
just
Frame
much
Center
more.
artist page too.
Exactly.
See some of the stuff
Yeah.
for that, and then link through to
I
get some
feel
of your
like
stuff.
people don't take the time to really investigate websites ananymore. I think it's
Yep.
just kind of like almost passe now.
But Instagram's
but-
a great platform too
Exactly.
for showing artwork. Because
Because it's very immediate
Yep.
and it's about like what am I doing right now?
yeah,
And so that's the stuff because keeping up a website is very cumbersome.
Yep.
And and
It's
it's
involved.
It
takes away from that time you can be spent painting.
Exactly. And so when you have very little time, which I have very little time because
Yep.
I teach full time, and so summer is my my moment that I get to dig in. But having very limited amount of time, Instagram is a great platform for me because it's like okay, I can put a few pictures up and then go on to the next
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Throw a video on there and move.
Yep.
And it does kind of track my progress, which is
Yep.
kind of nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is just it's right there. It's immediate.
It's there, and you can also go back and have it all stored.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry
exactly.
about having,
and archive.
Exactly.
And
3 years
categorize
ago,
it
you
a
did
little
this.
bit.
It's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about,
Right?
things like
Yeah.
So.
And the
so
other
that's
thing I
good.
wanted to ask you about too is that artist in residency over at the Social
Oh
Arts Center.
yeah.
So
time ago.
tell me a little bit about that because I'm curious about how that whole thing shakes up. And are they doing that all this on a regular basis?
I believe it is still happening. I was
I
artist
love
in residence
Social Arts
for
Center, by the way.
for
It's been another
2
fantastic.
years. They're fantastic. I love everything
Yep.
they do, and it's a great resource.
And there's a
and-
ton of great art. Not to put them above everyone else, but their facility is
Yeah.
fantastic
And,
they great
and
group,
they
very
really
professional.
work hard to, promote the shows and keep current
Yep.
and really, bring in interesting shows and really great themed shows and allow gallery artists opportunities to curate. So I've been a gallery artist down there for, I don't know, it's at least 10 years now.
Yep.
And I also had the opportunity to do the Artist in Residence program, which was just a phenomenal opportunity to work with kids.
Yep.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And so it was. I'm not sure if it's still run exactly this way. They
Yep.
had to alter it for many
Yeah, everything
reasons, but
changes.
with COVID, they did a I believe a traveling program
Yep.
so that they would come to your school. But when I
okay.
was doing it, it was a field trip. It was a free field trip.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I think the schools had to pay for was their transportation.
Yep.
And so the art center provided all the materials, and the
cool.
artist who was featured would do whatever really they chose to do. So I did a slide presentation. I had kind of a collaborative piece that I did with the kids where they got to make a collage with me.
Yep.
I'll have their
As
hand
kind
in
of
it.
so they would add to something that I had
Nice.
started, and they would come and pin things up and we would glue them down and then they did their own hands-on project where they got to take something home.
So they had a,
So the work that we did during my program was a combination of printmaking and collage.
Nice.
So, and I talked in my presentation a lot about like things that inspire me, travel, and my passions like architecture and nature and those kinds of things were featured
Yep.
in all of my photographs. I showed not only my inspiration, but artwork that
Yep.
connected with that. So I did that presentation. The kids got to be part of a piece that we collaborated on, and then they got to do their own work with a lot of volunteers in the space. So it was a blast, and it
A lot of inspiration
was
from watching those kids. get involved in that
fantastic
stuff.
to see their faces and
Yeah.
I can do this, and just we made big messes. It was, and a lot of what's nice about this program is that for schools that don't really have
Yep.
a great art program, it was a great resource for teachers to take the kids
Yep.
and have them have this great experience in a gallery space. They could see art, they could connect with an artist,
Yep.
and be an artist themselves and be able to think like an artist and kind of imagine themselves as an artist and being like truly accepted as that. Like,
Yeah.
why not? Everyone can be an artist.
Yeah, no.
Right. And so I think that they gave kids the opportunity to feel that way.
Yeah, and that, I think that's great, and that everyone can be an artist, and that's like
Absolutely.
and again, like that's like original artwork when you're hanging like a picture of your kids on your,
Right.
at your house. The kid doesn't even have to be that great. It's just like you have that connection to it. Like that's to me is such a more meaningful, type of piece of artwork on the wall.
Absolutely.
Framed properly
It's-
and
framed properly, absolutely.
that makes a difference, the presentation. But it's such a more interesting thing than just the store bought like thing that you don't have that connection to. I mean, there is having a connection to something because it's like you bought it or you were on vacation, like
Yes.
this type of print. But there's always a story behind all this stuff that's hanging on people's walls, and like the depth of the artwork is like it doesn't have to be an original, it could be a print, but like the more the story is that's there, I think it's just so much more interesting.
Totally agree. And I think that's the stuff I say to my students all the time is like, you bring yourself to your work.
Yeah.
It's not about making it perfect or making it like the example or it has to be this way or that way and these are the steps. It's about taking the journey and
Yeah.
being creative and having that process and discovering what happens when this brush hits the paper and how does that make you feel. Those kinds of things are really so much more important than that finished product that they that they
Yeah.
come up with. I know that sometimes what the parents see is
Yeah.
at the end of the day what did you bring home.
Yeah.
But for the child going through that process and discovering and not being afraid to make a mistake, just like being okay with that. And a lot of kids are like, oh, did I do it right? And I'm like, well, yeah, because you did it.
Do you like it? Then yes, you did it right. Yeah.
Did I do it right? And
Right.
it's like, well, it's right if it feels right. And if it doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
then you can always paint over it.
Exactly.
And you can always erase it, or you can always just start again.
It didn't dry right. It
There's-
cracked. It did this. It's like, well, guess what?
That's
You
part of the process.
sand
It's
it
how we
down, start
learn,
again. You learn more from mistakes than you do from successes. So.
I totally agree. And I think that's the fun part. It's like, I feel like, once you make a mistake, that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to see, like, what you can do next.
Yes.
Or how you can get to the next place.
Yep.
And have fun with that process instead of being like, oh no,
Yeah.
I ruined it.
Yeah.
Nope.
I have had those moments, but again, you learn
No.
to.
Well, that's one of
Expect them.
one of the ways to add a little more layers to the paintings too, right?
Yeah.
Make a couple of mistakes
Oh,
and just go right
save
over.
them all.
Especially
Use
when they
them
do
for
like the next
collage.
day. It's like, oh, this is due tomorrow. Oh, okay, yeah, no, I don't have time for pressure like this. But yeah, no, it's usually when the best stuff comes out. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So you're showing, you show still at South Shore Arts Center from time when they have show.
Yep. Yep. And it depends on what is happening, what the call for entries
Yep.
is, because I feel like sometimes I feel very connected to an idea and will submit to something like that. All the member shows and things like that, I always
Yeah,
try
I mean,
to contribute.
we have plenty around here.
Yeah.
South Shore, North River, Plymouth's great.
Yeah.
All artists.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think Pembroke just had
Yep, they just
theirs
wrapped up
in
their
August,
festival.
right?
Yeah.
And then the
Big
whole
head of
artist
that,
have
Chris
theirs.
Sullivan. She's coming on here to the twist my arm for donations.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And the Hull Artist Studios, I think they have their open house 17th and 18th. So
that's
it's like
good.
20 different galleries or 20 different art studios you can go
Oh, that's
through and
great.
actually see the artist area where they work and, speak with them, which is always
That
nice
to me
too.
is just such a great experience. I should actually mention when I was in the process of finishing those paintings for Warren, I invited him to the studio just so that he would have that comfort level that like I'm actually doing the work. Like,
They're coming.
it's happening. Like you can see it in progress, and he was so excited to have that.
I'm sure he probably wanted to see
opportunity.
how some of it was done too, like to see like the steps and the progress on it. 'cause
And it
that's-
was great to have a little like interaction with him to say, do you feel good about what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to start over, but
Yeah.
Oh, too late.
Feedback. And make sure you go in the right direction.
exactly.
And how was Warren? Now, you got to give a little talk about about the pieces. Not
Yes,
some-
so that
Not something
presentation
you
was
do for every
awesome.
painting. Or?
No, and I prefer not to. It's like, I like kind of letting my art speak for itself, but this was a great opportunity for me. Even though I hate doing it, I don't like, public speaking.
Yeah,
but
no,
it was a great opportunity to reflect on how this all came
As
about.
the whole project
and
overall, yeah.
what my thought process was and how to articulate that
Yep.
in words rather than just look at it. And you can figure it out just by looking at it.
What's it mean to
but
you?
But a lot of times you can't, and I think a lot of things are not clear to people. They just sort of see it and kind of walk by it. And that was one of the messages that I was trying to convey is that, this is actually here for a lot of reasons because of Warren's passions about, investing in an artist, investing in real original artwork.
Yep.
But also, I wanted people to think about, like, how do you interact with artwork? How do you maybe take the time to like slow your process down? Like we walk by so many things. We're always in a rush, especially when you're going to work
Yes.
and people are walking through the lobby and hitting the elevator button and
Yeah.
like, well, while you're waiting for the elevator, you can actually have that
Take
experience.
a moment.
And so what was kind of an important message I was trying to convey is like this building is about unity. It's about these labor organizations and the work that's done there is about building community and having that safe place. And I said, well, people from anywhere in the world can stand in front of these paintings that are a completely imaginary place and maybe have a connection and maybe think about something from their childhood
triggers
or
a
maybe
thought or
it might just make you remember something or even just have a moment of just serenity in your day. So that was
Your daily
just
moment of zen, yeah.
just that one little moment that you might have in front of a painting or a piece of artwork that's just an important just speck of your day.
It is, and that's the whole reason behind it is to make you feel something. So
I wanted to get in for the talk as well, but unfortunately that was the Dina, Mark vacation, Scott missing a bunch
Yeah,
of
that
days.
was,
So they were-
running a business, you kind of have to just
I was
be
gonna say,
there.
but fortunately it was recorded on video,
Yes.
and
Yeah, it was
I
great.
know a guy, so I was hoping to actually watch it before you came in for this, but the day kind of got away from me. But
all
I do
good.
actually want to see it because I want to I've seen the pieces, got to be involved in a sense, so I kind of want to watch the video and hear Warren speak on it.
And he was so amazing. He is an incredible speaker, off the cuff, just not a or an
Oh my God,
in the-
yeah. No,
he
he's-
just speaks so beautifully about his experience and the history and just everything that he's passionate about.
Yep.
And he really is just he owns that
Yeah.
and really wants to build that sense of community in the building. And it was great to hear him talk about that.
That's
Yeah.
a cool thing. I would like to see it too, and again, it almost mimics what we're trying to do too. Just trying to, and it's so important. I mean, that's why we, other things in the community like Hanover Days, like the art show we do with the kids. Hopefully, since we know a teacher from our schools, hopefully we get that rolling again. And
Right. Yeah.
coming out of COVID, farmers market, the community stuff. I mean, we're trying to be a part of the,
I think
part
it's
of the
awesome.
community. So
You're such a great resource, and you're generous with your space and your knowledge and the support of local artists. It's just such a great place for me, anyway, and I think for a lot of people who keep coming back.
yeah, well, hopefully they keep coming. Yeah, hopefully that continues.
We'll keep it up. We'll keep evolving. Keep putting out as much as we can to help everybody out.
Keep
Because without you
growing those
guys,
pages.
we wouldn't be here either. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's what the whole
it's a
thing
whole
is. That's
symbiotic
what
circle there.
tie-dye T-shirts is, we want to support the art community on the South Shore because the art community on the South Shore has supported us for a long time. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
awesome.
good teamwork.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, I think it it's a a rising tide thing, right? Everyone more people are involved in buying original art, the more people end up going to frame it. So that's good
Absolutely.
for us. And I think that's like an important message for people too. And like maybe original art might cost a little bit more than a print off the wall, but have that connection. And,
It just becomes more meaningful, and then and to treat it with respect and get it framed so that it will last.
Yes,
And
that's
that
right.
I think is another thing about it. It's like you might invest in a piece of artwork, but also present it the right way so that it is safe, it lasts longer, and then you can pass it down to your
With
Yeah.
no connection, there's a lot of things that
Uh-huh.
end up on people's yard sales that they had no connection to that piece, so they don't care when it's gone.
Exactly.
But then the grandkid that this was in Grandma and Gramps' house. Every single time I went over, I saw it. Now it's hanging in my house because I wasn't going to let it go. That's kind of special. So
Yeah.
awesome.
It's legacy stuff.
exactly.
Well, I'm thrilled that you came in, sat down with us, and talked. I mean, it's
Glad I
a fun
didn't run
story.
away.
So are we.
I'm gonna certainly watch the video. I think that you guys should you and Warren should collaborate on that and get that out somewhere. Maybe throw a QR code at the bottom of
Oh, yeah.
the paintings
That's
too.
a good idea.
That's what we did
think of that.
We did that downstairs for Mike's Mike Sleeper's
Oh, yeah.
photograph.
Yep,
We just did a quick YouTube video. So
that's a
Yeah.
really cool idea.
Yeah.
Hadn't even thought of that, because what we probably should do is create some kind of little plaque or something.
Yeah.
For the,
Easily done.
for the
Yeah.
title of it, and
Well,
then
I mean,
that could have that.
you need. I mean, again, I mean, those things being up on the wall are an advertisement for you. So you
sure.
you need to come up
Yeah.
with some sort of way to, people that enjoy it. Because you don't have a big signature in there that says Karen Cass.
Yes, definitely should have a little
So you
holder
should-
for my business cards right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
you
you
mean-
can even do
yeah.
that. Yeah. Make a frame for it, and then on the top set a little.
No, look at the
Cardboard
one.
things.
Look at the one downstairs we have for
For
Mike's.
Mike,
Like
yeah.
because you
That's
could
great,
definitely
yeah.
do like a little black frame mounted to the wall
Yep.
that mimics so it looks like it's a piece of everything else,
Right.
almost like a signature card or something.
That's a great idea.
This is
yeah.
much more easy and modern take on the business card.
And I'm
it
sure
brings you
Warren
right
will
there.
be here this weekend, so you
Yeah,
can tell
well,
him all about
exactly.
that.
Every
I'll-
Saturday, like clockwork,
kick
he's
that- Okay, well, I mean, you guys got to collaborate on that because
No, for sure.
you're the one that's on there. But I'll tell him the idea because
That's great.
He
Well, and I think he liked. Actually, I came up with a title for the series. It's called Common Threads.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
nice.
I figured
I like
that was
that.
like a really good tie-in to the whole theme of
Yeah.
what he does and the history. So.
Yeah, and back to what we were saying earlier about like websites and whatnot. I think that people get lost and stuff too. Like you go on but that either have like a YouTube video or like having that thing bring
Yes.
bring the people
very
right
direct.
to your Instagram
Yes.
or something like
They can
that.
see some of the other
Yep.
pieces exactly. Give you like I said, much better understanding of how you work and what you work in.
Yeah.
Next time you're gonna talk to Jade, she's the one that creates the QR codes
Yep.
for
Oh,
my
cool.
ideas too. So like,
Okay.
I don't think it's very complicated.
No,
but
yeah.
I don't know how to do it. So
No, the generators are much easier than they used to be. So.
But I'm sure you could probably, like I'm thinking of some like I've seen them and they have like a cool design in them too. So you could probably like play
Yes.
with something and like have your name,
Oh,
have your
yeah.
name.
Put a
in there.
nautiloid in the center of it, just a little.
Yeah.
Something like
this.
that.
Yeah, but see
Very
more
cool.
ideas. Like this
Love
is what
it.
it's all about.
I'm gonna take some notes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh,
It
this
was
was
always
my pleasure.
always good to have you come by, and I think that's where we'll wrap it up there.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
thanks for joining us, I guess. And what do I say? Hey, see ya!